Everybody have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. Everybody have a seat on the floor. Not on the ceiling, not on the door. Everybody have a seat on the floor. Hi, boys and girls. We left off with now we have two horses, a cowboy and an Indian that have been brought to life. And Patrick, Omri's friend, has insisted that Omri bring them to school tomorrow. So that's where we left off. And chapter 9 is called Shooting Match. Uh-oh. I hope nobody gets hurt. Chapter 9. Omri put the cowboy and the horse in his sock drawer while he had the quickest supper on record. Then he raced upstairs again, stopping only to pinch a few grains of Gillen's rat feed for the two horses. Shut up in his room, he took stock. A room this size was like a sort of indoor national park to the cowboy and the Indian. It should be easy enough to keep them apart for one night. Omri thought first of putting the new pair straight back in the cupboard and then bringing them back to life next morning in time for school. But he had promised Patrick not to, so he decided to empty out the dressing up crate and put the cowboy and his horse in there for the night. The crate was about 2 feet square, made of planks. There was certainly no visible way out of it for the cowboy. Omri put him carefully down into it. Looking down at him, he felt curious about his name, where he came from, and so on. But he decided it was better not to talk to him. The cowboy had clearly decided that Omri was not really there at all. When his big hands reached down, carrying some cold stew, grain for the horse, some fragments of apple for both of them, and later some cotton wool and scraps of material for bedding, the cowboy deliberately covered his eyes by pulling down his big hat brim. It was only when Omri reached in one final time to give him a drink of water in a minute green glass bottle that he found in the bathroom cupboard that the cowboy spoke a word. "Take that filthy stuff out of here," he suddenly shouted in his strong Texas accent. "I ain't aiming to drink no more of that as long as I live." And he heaved the bottle, which was almost as big as himself, up by its base and tipped its contents out onto the boards at the bottom of the crate. "It's only water," Omri ventured to say. "Ye shut your mouth," shouted the little man. "I won't take no lip from no gol darn hallucination. No, sir. Maybe I do drink too much. Maybe I can't hold my liquor like some of them real tough guys do. But if I'm a-getting the deliriums, tremens, and starting to see things, why couldn't I see pink elephants and dancing rats and all them purty things that other fellows see when they gets far gone? It ain't fair for me to see giants and blue deserts and get put in boxes the size of the Grand Canyon with no one but my little hoss for company." He sat down on the pile of hay, took the horse's nose in his arms, put his face against it, and began to sob. Omri was shattered. A cowboy crying? He didn't know what to do. When his mother cried, as she sometimes did when things got too much, she only asked to be left alone until she felt better. Maybe all grown-ups were like that. Omri turned away and got slowly into his pajamas, and then went to see how Little Bear was getting along on the far side of the crate. He'd finished the painting. The teepee looked really good. Little Bear was now in the longhouse arranging his blanket for the night. The pony was tethered to his post on a long rope. Omri took out the rat food and gave it to him, and then he called Little Bear out. "Are you okay? Anything you need?" He should have known better than to ask. "Plenty. Want fire in longhouse. Keep warm. Keep animals away. Want tomahawk. So you can chop bits out of my leg?" Little Bear angry when he say that. "Sorry now. Use tomahawk, cut down trees, chop firewood, kill fish." "What fish?" Little Bear replied with a very good imitation of a fish swimming. Then he did a mime of catching it, putting it onto a block, and with a whirl of his arm, chopping off its head with gleeful relish. "I don't know about that." "You get, tomorrow, fish from plastique. Good tools. But fire now. Chief Little Bear say." Omri sighed. He went to the wastepaper basket and picked out the remains of the other fire that he had thrown away. There was quite a lot of firelighter left. He gathered up some of the bits of willow bark and twigs from where Little Bear was working. You're not having it inside, though. That's far too dangerous. He ranged the fire on the packed earth of the seed tray about 6 inches from the entrance to the longhouse, first moving the teepee to safety. Then he struck a match, and soon there was a cozy blaze. Little Bear crouched beside it, his red skin glowing and his eyes bright with pleasure. Little Bear, can you dance? Yes, many kinds. Would you do one now so I can see? He hesitated, and then he shook his head at once. Why not, though? No reason, dance. Maybe if I got you a wife? The Indian looked up eagerly. You get? Give word? I only said I'd try. Then Little Bear dance. Then do best dance. Love dance. Omri turned off his light and drew back from the scene. It looked amazingly real, with the fire making shadows, the little horse munching his grain, and the Indian sitting on his heels warming himself, wearing his colorful headdress and chief's cloak. Omri wished he himself were small enough to join Little Bear by the fire. Omri, are you in bed? I'm coming up in 5 minutes to kiss you goodnight. Omri felt panicky, but it was all right. The fire was going out. Already, Little Bear was standing up, yawning and stretching. He peered up through the darkness. Hey, Omri, paintings good? Great. You sleep now? Yes. Peace of great spirits be with you. Thanks, same to you. Omri peered quickly into the crate. The poor cowboy had crawled away into his makeshift bed and was snoring loudly. He hadn't eaten a thing. Omri sighed. He hoped Patrick was making plans and arrangements. After all, if Omri could keep his Indian a secret, Patrick might be able to do the same. All might be yet well. But Omri certainly wasn't going to try the experiment again. It was just too much worry. He climbed into bed, feeling unusually tired. His mother came in, kissed him, and the door was shut. He felt himself drifting off almost right away, when suddenly a piercing whinny sounded and was answered by another. The horses had smelled each other. They were not so far apart, and the cowboys wasn't tied up. Omri could hear his little hooves clattering on the bare boards of the crate, and then the whinnies began again, high and shrill, almost questioning. Omri thought of putting on his light, but he was awfully tired. Besides, what could he do? They couldn't possibly reach each other through the planks of the crate wall. Let them whinny their heads off. They'll soon get fed up. Hi, Julie. All right, sorry guys, I had to pause there for a minute. I went out and delivered your bags of goodies, so it was fun to see a lot of you. And if I missed you, we'll save your bag for when you're able to pick it up. All right, so I think I left off, and he was wondering if Patrick would maybe be able to keep the secret. So he climbed into bed, feeling unusually tired. His mother came in and kissed him, and the door was shut. He felt himself drifting off almost right away, when suddenly a piercing whinny sounded and was answered by another. The horses had smelled each other. They were not so far apart, and the cowboys wasn't tied up. Omri could hear his little hooves clattering on the bare boards of the crate, and then the whinnies began again, high, shrill, almost questioning. Omri thought of putting on his light, but he was awfully tired. Besides, what could he do? They couldn't possibly reach each other through the planks of the crate wall. Let them whinny their heads off. They'd soon get fed up. Omri rolled over and fell asleep. He was awakened just after dawn by shots. He was out of bed in about 1/5 of a second. One glance into the crate showed him all too clearly that the cowboy and his horse had escaped. The second glance showed how. A knot in the wood had been pushed out, or perhaps kicked out by the horse, leaving an oval-shaped hole like an arched doorway, just big enough to let horse and rider through. Omri looked around wildly. At first, he could see nothing. He dropped to his knees beside the seed box and peered into the longhouse. Little Bear was not there, nor was his horse. Suddenly, some tiny thing whizzed past Omri's ear and struck the crate beside him with a ping. Twisting his head, Omri saw it, a feathered arrow the size of a pin still quivering from its flight. Was Little Bear shooting at him? Little Bear, where are you? No answer. But suddenly, a movement like that of a mouse caught the corner of his eye. It was the cowboy, dragging his horse behind him. He was running, half bent over from behind one chair leg to another. He had his revolver in his hand, his hat on his head. So let's see if we can kind of see. This is hard to see the detail here. But you can see the cowboy and his horse. I don't see the Indian in that picture. No answer, but suddenly a movement like that of a mouse caught the corner of his eye. Was the cowboy dragging his horse behind him. He had another arrow flew, missing the crate this time and burying itself in the carpet just ahead of the running cowboy, who stopped dead, jumped backward till his horse hid him, and then fired another 2 shots from behind the horse's shoulder. Omri followed his aim and spotted Little Bear at once. He and his horse were behind a small heap of cloth, which was like a snow-covered hill to them, but was actually Omri's vest dropped carelessly on the floor the night before. Little Bear, safe in the shelter of his cotton mount, was just preparing to shoot another arrow at the cowboy, one that could hardly fail to hit its mark. The poor fellow was now scrambling desperately onto his horse to try to ride away, and was in full sight of the Indian as he drew back his bowstring. "Little Bear, stop!" Omri's frenzied voice rang out. Little Bear did not stop, but his surprise spoiled his aim, and the arrow sped over the cowboy, doing no worse than sweep away his big hat and pin it to the baseboard behind the chair. This infuriated the little man, who, forgetting his fear, stood up in his stirrups and shouted, "Tarnation! Take ya, you red varmint! Wait till I catch ya! I'll have your stinking red hide for a sleeping bag!" With that, he rode straight toward the Vest Hill at full gallop, shouting out strange cowboy war cries and waving his gun, which by Omri's account still had 2 bullets in it. Little Bear had not expected this, but he was only outfaced for a moment. Then he coolly drew another arrow from his quiver and fitted it to his bow. "Little Bear, if you shoot, I'll pick you up and squeeze you," Omri cried. Little Bear kept his arrow pointing toward the oncoming horseman. "What you do if he shoot?" "He won't shoot. Look at him." Sure enough, the carpet was too soft for much galloping. And even as Omri spoke, the cowboy's horse stumbled and fell, pitching its rider over its head. Little Bear lowered his bow and laughed. Then, to Omri's horror, he laid down the bow among the folds of the vest, reached for his knife, and began to advance on the cowboy. "Little Bear, you are not to touch him. Do you hear?" Little Bear stopped. "He try shoot, Little Bear. White enemy try take Indian's land. Why not kill? Better dead. I act quick. He not feel. You see." And he began to move forward again. When he was nearly up to the cowboy, Omri swooped on him. He didn't squeeze him, of course, but he did lift him high and fast enough to give him a fright. "Listen to me now. That cowboy isn't after your land. He's got nothing to do with you. He's Patrick's cowboy like you're my Indian. I'm taking him to school with me today, so you won't be bothered by him anymore. Now take your horse and get back to your longhouse and leave him to me." Little Bear, sitting cross-legged in the palm of his hand, gave him a sly look. "You take him to school? Place you learn about ancestors?" "That's what I said." He folded his arms, offended. "Why you not take Little Bear?" Omri was startled into silence. "If white fool with coward's face good enough, Indian chief good enough." "You wouldn't enjoy it." "If he enjoy, I enjoy." "I'm not taking you. It's too risky." "Risky? Firewater?" No, not whiskey. Risky. Dangerous. He shouldn't have said that. Little Bear's eyes lit up. Like danger. Here, too quiet. No hunting. Him only enemy, he said scornfully, peering over the edge of Omri's hand at the cowboy, who, despite the softness of his landing place, was only just scrambling to his feet. Look, he no use for fight. Little Bear soon kill, take scalp, finish. Very good scalp, he said generously. Fine color. Look good on belt. Omri looked across at the cowboy. He was leaning his ginger head against his saddle. It looked as if he might be crying again. Omri felt very sorry for him. You're not going to hurt him, he said to the Indian, because I won't let you. If he's such a coward, it wouldn't do your honor any good anyway. Little Bear's face fell and grew mulish. No tell from scalp on belt if belong to coward or brave man. Let me kill and I do dance around campfire. No, Omri began. Then he changed his tactics. All right, you kill him, but then I won't bring you a wife. The Indian looked at him for a long time. Then he slowly put his knife away. No touch. Give word. Now you give word. Take Little Bear to school. Take to plastique. Let Little Bear choose woman. Omri considered. He could help Little Bear, or he could keep Little Bear in his pocket all day. No need to take any chances. If he were tempted to show the other children, well, he must resist temptation, that was all. And after school, he could take him to Yaps. The boxes with the plastic figures in them were in the corner behind a high stand. Provided there weren't too many other kids in the shop, he might be able to give Little Bear a quick look at the Indian ladies before he bought one, which would be a very good thing. Otherwise, he might pick an old or ugly one without realizing it. It was so hard to see from their tiny plastic faces what they would look like when they came to life. Okay, then, I'll take you. But you must do as I tell you and not make any noise. He put him down in the seed tray and gently shooed the horse up the ramp. Little Bear tied it to its post, and Omri gave it some more rat food. Then he crawled on hands and knees over to where the cowboy was now sitting dolefully on the carpet, his horse's rein looped around his arm, looking too miserable to move. What's the matter? Omri asked him. The little man didn't look up. I lost my hat, he mumbled. Oh, is that all? Omri reached over to the baseboard and pulled the pin-like arrow out of the wide brim of the hat. Here it is, he said kindly, laying it in the cowboy's lap. The cowboy looked at it, looked up at Omri, then stood and put the hat on. You sure ain't no regular hallucination, he said. I'm obliged to you. Suddenly he laughed. Just imagine thanking a piece of your delirium tremens. Just imagine thanking a piece of your delirium tremens for giving you back your hat. I just can't figure out what's going on here. Say, are you real? Or was that Injun real? Because in case you ain't noticed, you're a dang sight bigger than he is. It can't both be real. I don't think you ought to worry about it. What's your name? The cowboy seemed embarrassed and hung his head. My name's Boone, but the fellas all call me Boo-Hoo. That's on account of I cry so easy. It's my soft heart. Show me something sad or scare me just a little and the tears just come to my eyes. I can't help it. Omri, who had been somewhat of a crybaby himself until very recently, was not inclined to be scornful about this and said, That's okay. Only you needn't be scared of me. And as for the Indian, he's my friend, and he won't hurt you, he's promised. Now I'd like you to take your horse and go back into the big crate. I'll stick the knot back in the wood. You'll feel safer. Then I'll get you some breakfast. Boone brightened visibly at this. What would you like? Oh, shucks. I ain't that hungry. Couple bits of steak and 3 or 4 eggs sitting on a small heap of beans and washed down with a jug of coffee will suit me just dandy. You'll be lucky, thought Omri. So now we have 2 little characters to think about, and they're both going to go to school with Omri. Sounds like a not very good plan. it was great to see a lot of you today, and I will read chapter 10 to you next time.